Afternoon, everyone. Now, I don't have a video, but I chose that song for a reason. I'm going to reference it during my talk. It's a real honor to be here. This is my 23rd year in real estate. I think it's my 10th AREC, and as a result of doing this talk, I've done the most incredible deep dive into the last 23 years to have a think about exactly what it is I can talk to you about today. Now, what I want to say from the outset is I'm a lifelong learner. I'm so committed to being a better version of myself. And I also want to put out, just from the outset that I've had a lot of success, but I've also made a lot of mistakes. Mistakes that I've learned from, and I've watched other people make mistakes, and I've learned from them. I actually felt a bit better about it when Stephen Bartlett was saying all that failure stuff. So just so I can, actually that's the picture of me when I started 23 years ago. Just so I can put on the board, they're my stats since 2021, so 390 sales, $1 billion in sales volume. I'm a director at Bresic Whitney. I was the first external partner, if you've heard of the business, that Shannon and Ivan took on at the end of 2012. And I currently run the Balmain office, which I founded with my business partner and best friend, Andrew Liddell. This is my team, so that's my structure within my business. That's how we get to that volume of sales. That's Jack Parry and Jasmine Anglesey at the top, and down the bottom is Danny, my EA, and Troy, our associate. If I could, just because I've got the stage, I would like to acknowledge Jasmine and Jack. I'm just so proud of them. They are everything the industry needs and everything that the community needs. Now, my talk today comes to... Yeah, that's good. Thank you. Thank you. My talk today is, there's two key themes. The first one is just so that we can do it, just a minute of sales training. I just want to share with you the formula that I used to build my career and build an office with Andrew. And it all boils down to 3 questions. I keep everything really simple. The questions are this: what's your product knowledge like out of 10? What's your buyer work like out of 10? And what's your database and seller work like out of 10? Now, if the answer isn't a 9 for those 3 questions, then I would say to you, there's no point talking about anything else. I get asked all the time, like, how do I list or social media? Just focus on those 3 questions, and I guarantee, hopefully just like me, you can have an attraction business. Now, the other thing that I asked, just to round off this training, is I asked a few people, Jasmine, Andrew, Will Phillips, what they thought the most important skill set in real estate was, and they all answered the same thing: qualification. Good qualification, the best of the best that I've ever worked with, Ivan Bresic, Shannon Whitney, Maclay Longhurst, Andrew, the best of the best are all the best qualifiers. And just so it's real time, I just wanted to share this. I had an auction yesterday, so I think most people just ask the question like, will you be there? Maybe not, but that's a question. These are the questions that I asked for my auction yesterday to one of the buyers. Will you be there? Will you be there to bid? Is there any reason why you wouldn't be there and bid tomorrow? How do you feel about starting the bidding? And then just to test things, I said, if I had to vendor bid it and that vendor bid was 4.3, do you think you'd bid against it? They're all the questions that I asked just to give me a bit of a temperature check. Okay. What I'm going to do now is, this is a story. There's still a lot of guilt and shame in this story for me, and I'm nervous being here, but I'm nervous about what I'm about to share with you. But I share this so that you can look at my journey and perhaps learn from it. I want to take you back to a period, 2021. So 2021, I felt like an adult for the first time, like I was ticking life boxes. My personal career was flying. My office was flying. I was about to turn 40. I hadn't even turned 40. So it was 104 sales. The picture behind me is my beautiful family, my beautiful wife, my beautiful children. In 2021, we bought a house. We renovated a house. It was featured in a magazine. Chloe was an interior designer. It was the front cover of a magazine, so I was living in a beautiful home. They were my socials. Everything looked incredible. I'm bragging about my 100 sales and my grid and all that sort of stuff. And then also, the house that we bought, we actually renovated and made quite a tidy profit. There's a shadow to everything, and there's a shadow to success. In 2021, I was running on adrenaline. My head was spinning. I found it difficult to be present. I wore busyness as a badge of honor. And if I'm really honest with you, I thought I was better than everybody else, everybody in the community, because of my income. And I justified it all because I associated happiness with sales and income. I was so seduced by the income, the dopamine, the perceived power that I thought, and I just kept going harder and harder, and I did that on autopilot. But here's the thing. If I'm honest, again, that was the unhappiest year of my life. And if income equated to happiness, why was I feeling so empty? Now I want to take you to mid-2023. I'm just going to share something with you. It's very personal. It's my journal entry. Something had just happened in my life, and this is what I wrote about. I'm just going to come over here for this. Is this what happens when you're in an industry that has no limitations? Is this what happens? No limitations around how much you can work, how much you can sell, and how much you can earn. Is this what happens when you can't mentally switch off at any point? Is this what happens when all you focus on is more, more, more? When your income helps you lose sight of reality? Is this what happens when your self-worth and happiness is directly correlated to how many houses you sell and how much money you make? Is this what happens when all you can do is compare yourself to everybody else? Now, I know, and I know because we're salespeople, some of those questions must be relatable to you. I know that. I wrote that journal entry because I'd found out a few days earlier that I had kidney cancer. Now, I got lucky. I was in hospital with stomach cramps. It was an incidental finding. It was early detection. But it rattled me a bit. These are the pictures of me in hospital. I'm in my 40s, and that's my mum and dad in the room. That's Andrew visiting me, and my children visiting me. Now, here's the thing. The cancer wasn't even the hard part. The hard part is that 8 months earlier, I'd separated. Now, this was my second marriage. I had children this time around. And with my whole heart, I can say that when Chloe and I got married, I said to Chloe, no matter what happens, no matter what, I've already been down that path before. We work through everything. We sort it out. We love each other to the end. And that belief was so ingrained in me. In stark contrast to 2021, where I feel like I'm a superstar, like the song, life really humbled me. I'm going to share this. I love that saying. Would you die? You would die for your kids, but would you live for them? Now, I hope no one ever has to do this. I had to leave. I wanted to leave some videos for my kids. Now, with the cancer, the only part of the process I couldn't control with getting better was the 4-hour operation. That's the only part I couldn't control. So I did this video in the week leading up to the operation, and I can tell you I've never been so scared in my whole life. Now, the video I left for my children, I did it because I wanted them to hear it directly from me. I wanted to explain to them who I am, what my values are, what I stand for, how I feel about them, what I wanted for them, and how I felt about their mother. I wanted them to know that as well. Now, there's something key here. You have to really be careful what you model to your children, and I say this to the parents in the room and there's no judgment when I say anything, right? What we model becomes their norm, and I would never, ever want my son or daughter to treat themselves the way I treated myself in those years when I was just pushing so hard. There's also one more component to this, and probably the lowest, most challenging point in my whole life was the night before the operation. That's where it all fell apart. I organized the dinner at my parents' house, and I went. I just couldn't keep it together. I was just so angry, so ashamed, asking myself, how did it get to this? All I could say to myself was, why? Why didn't you spend more time with your kids? Why didn't you spend more time with your parents? Why didn't you spend more time with your friends? Why didn't you travel more with the kids? Why didn't you have more gelato with the kids, the stuff that they love? They were all the questions that I was asking myself. Now, what I can say is this. Obviously, I'm here, so there's a happy ending, and the operation went well. When I separated with my wife, thank you. Thanks. when I separated with my wife, I was at a fork in the road because there were dark days, and I could have self-destructed, but I went down the path of health. And, you know, as a result of doing that, when I arrived at my operation, people asked me, what did you change? I literally had nothing to change. I was the fittest and healthiest I'd ever been. Now, I don't have one of the 6 genes that gives you a predisposition to kidney cancer. My cancer was purely lifestyle, and I barely drink, I don't party or do any of those things. It was work. Now, I want to share with you what changed, because I came out of that operation and that period a completely different person. Now, if you'd allow me, I'd like to ask you all a couple of questions, because I wish I asked myself these questions, but I'm going to share with you what changed for me. The first thing was this, a mindset shift. No thanks, society. I don't care what society says or what I think I should be doing or what society is, you know, suggesting that I should do. Also, this wasn't relevant to me, but it may be to some, like parents. I got beautiful parents, loving, supportive parents, but also cultural beliefs as well. Just no interest in it. I will focus on what makes me happy. And I had to decide and learn what made me happy, because I'd spent a lot of my adult years on autopilot. So I have the question for you. What is the story that you're telling yourself? Why are you doing this? The second thing is, my priorities changed. Now, life fits in 4 buckets for me. I think Stephen Bartlett heard my presentation because he's got the buckets thing as well. The 4 buckets are this: health, my children, which extends to the well-being of my ex-wife, because if she's not happy, my children aren't happy. That's my responsibility as well. My work, and then my friends and social engagements and experiences. So I would ask you the same question. What are your priorities? Think about my 4 and put them in order. My 4 are always in that order now. Every decision I make is based on, you know, the list that I've just given you. Social media. Is the clicker working? The clicker's not working, guys. Okay. I changed my relationship with social media. I unfollowed so many people. It was just too much information. It's everybody's highlight reel. It's absolute bullshit. It made me feel like shit. I don't follow any agents who just post real estate stuff. I just want to follow people that I'm close to, that I like, and that I'm curious around what's happening in their world. I also followed a lot of positive accounts, because you can use it for that. So my question to you is, what's your relationship like with social media? Next. Sorry guys, the clicker again. I stopped the comparison game. I know, surely you can relate to this. Surely some of us can relate to it. I started to think about the person that I wanted to become, and I created goals for that person. I'm just going to put my goals on I think the battery went dead. Okay, these are my goals. I'm just giving you, they're in order of my sort of buckets, but I want to share something with you, just a light bulb moment. There was just a smidgen in time last year where my wife and I tried to get back together, and I have my goals in the car, in my bathroom, at work. And Chloe got in the car and Chloe said to me, they're awesome goals, but where are me and the kids on there? So what are your goals? And who do you want to be? Okay, next. Now I understand this is, I know this is sort of big, but I assembled a team around me to help me get through this period, which I still have. I started working for a real estate coach, Ivan Bresic, a wellness coach, Lincoln Westerman, an energy coach, Dave Flakler, saw him every fortnight, a sports masseuse, my therapist, Dr. Maya Stanovich, I've been working with her for years, Pete down at Icebergs, I live in Sydney, Bondi Beach. I train outdoors in a group class, I love it. And then lastly, my accountant and financial planner, Chris Fellis. Now, that was mainly around managing my divorce and managing the divorce lawyers. Now, with the divorce, I want to share this. I had all sorts of advice, and I'm sure it all came from a good place. Go for everything. Give her everything. I managed my divorce the same way I do everything. How you do something is how you do everything. I think John McGrath said that. And as a result, I managed that process with integrity, transparency, honoring myself, honoring my wife, and honoring my family unit. And we got to a suitable outcome. Outside of that, I have to acknowledge Andrew Liddell. He's always been in my corner. He's the best father, husband, agent I know. I've also had Ivan Bresic in my corner, and I've also had Shannon Whitney, who's been like a big brother to me. There's a saying, and I love it, show me your friends, and I will show you your future. Yeah. So what support do you have? What support do you have? And who is in your corner? If I could, I don't think he's here, but to John McGrath as well, I just thought about this. A huge thank you to John McGrath for what he's done for this industry, for what he's done for me. We appreciate you, John. Okay, the biggest thing, I could talk about this for an hour, but I'm just going to give you the very short version. The topic of energy comes up a lot, and a couple of years ago I was taught that diary management is energy management. I didn't quite understand that, but I did learn how to manage my diary and subsequently manage my energy. That is what governs my whole life, that calendar. So I look at everything in 12-month chunks now. I schedule time out of real estate at the start of the year. I also revolve it around the green, which is school holidays. The worst thing is to work hard and then book a holiday because you burn out. What's even better is to have a holiday booked and to arrive at it where you feel fresh. They are the best holidays, I can tell you that. The second thing is, I'm just sharing, that's like a typical week in my calendar. I never look at my calendar in 24-hour increments anymore, ever. If I do, I'll try and cram too much stuff in there. I also have rules and guidelines around what goes into my calendar. See the blue? The blue is all my personal stuff. I now schedule life before I schedule work stuff, because the blue stuff is what actually makes me happy, and if I don't consciously think about it, I'll never schedule that in. I also have rules like I don't want to do 4 listen appointments in a day and then on a Tuesday, and then let's say on a Wednesday I've got 5 midweek open houses. That's already scattered and chaotic energy, so I'm very conscious about this. I know this is a bit of an eye roll, this stuff, but let's just simplify this to within the week, I also have a morning and a nighttime routine. I implemented that at the start of 2023 when I leaned into my health. If health, nutrition, and exercise was a language, I basically started learning that language in 2023, and now I feel like I'm almost fluent in it. And that list probably had 2 things, but it just compounds and there's more and more. I have a morning routine with and without my kids because I co-parent 50-50. So I want to ask you this. Do you manage your diary or does your diary manage you? I got a hobby. That's, photography. I bought a camera. I did an online course and I started taking pictures. I can't tell you how happy it makes me. It's just something outside of real estate. Taking a good picture, sharing that picture. It's just something. That's a picture of Ivan. He doesn't know that I put it on there. So, do you have a hobby outside of real estate? It sounds like such a basic question, but do you have a hobby outside of real estate, or are you just working? And then lastly, I started my podcast. It's been years in the making. That's what it looks like. I released the first episode last week. I actually interviewed my ex-wife. Yeah. I hope if you listen to it, you don't have to make the mistakes that I made, because it's a very honest and real conversation. So that last question was like, what are you passionate about? Okay, I'll tell you what didn't change. What didn't change was my drive and ambition. My desire to earn money and build wealth. My desire to sell 100 properties a year. My love of nice possessions, material things, fast cars, nice holidays. It's just how I arrived at those things. Now, just in a work sense, I just want to share this with you quickly. Where are we at? Okay. This is just purely relating to work. I shifted from a fear-based mentality to an abundance-based mentality. I heard Jay Shetty say on a podcast, if the following emotions are present, you cannot be abundant. Fear, anger, sadness, self-doubt, or frustration. If you're feeling one of those, that will affect your vibration and you cannot be in abundance mode. So, do you have an abundance mindset or do you have a fear-based mindset? I dropped the story that I have to be on all the time. That's what I said to myself, the guilt that I felt that I always have to be on. What expectations do you put on yourself? I started working from center. I don't really celebrate the wins, but I also don't let the lows get me down. Now, this is important. If I lose a listing now, I'm okay with that. I look for the lesson, and I always say to myself, you can't lose what was meant for you. That's something that Lincoln taught me. So this is a question, and this is a huge one. Are you in control of your emotions and your nervous systems? Or are you emotionally unstable and volatile? Because that is hard for you, and that is hard for your partner. I restructured my team. The team doesn't revolve around me anymore. We've had 11 sales this month. 12 new listings. I don't think any of the listings are mine actually, but 4 of the sales are. I last year had a personal goal to put Jasmine and Jack first contact on 10 of my listings, so that would give them the momentum they needed to start and kick off their career. There's one more thing. I changed models, and maybe you can relate to some of this. I was burning through PAs, and I'm embarrassed about this. In 2021, I went through 5 PAs. It's just not okay. That's just not okay. So there was something broken with that system. So what I changed is this. If you're trying to empower your staff, I started bringing Jasmine and Jack to listing appointments with me, and then instead of listing something, 100 properties, and dumping that on my EA's desk and saying renovate 100 properties and do all the paperwork and blah, 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 I started bringing Jasmine and Jack to appointments. I started paying them a management fee, so if there was any work that needed to be done, they would do it. They were getting 10% of the whole commission to do it, but then we got a team assistant, and then the team assistant, they would just go to the team assistant and they'd process all the paperwork. That's how we work. That worked for us, and now the model has changed again. This is my final note. At my age, at my stage in my career, I don't think it's a flex anymore to just work like a dog and sell heaps of houses and earn heaps of money. That ain't a flex anymore. The real flex in real estate is a successful career, but on top of that, being an amazing partner, the only person missing from that photo, an amazing parent or sibling, and to have amazing health, both physical and mental health. That's it. Thank you.